Hello and welcome back to the Day Luna Human Design Podcast with your hosts, Dana and Shayna. Today we have on one of our favorite guests ever. We've had her on in the past. She is amazing. It's Debra Silverman, and we get real, like future focused, nerdy human design astrology, woo woo, out of the box. We just let it rip and we go there and yeah, zero shame, but also so much fun. And I could live in that space. And it's definitely the Gemini energy in the room. But yeah, she doesn't know my name. She calls me Shauna like the whole time, but that's okay because she sees my soul and my essence and my energy. So none of us corrected her. So as you're listening and you're like, oh yeah, we know. And it's like, honestly, I kind of like it. Like it just gives me that spice of like nothing fucking matters because it literally doesn't. And that's something that when my ego died, when I gave birth, something that she brings up, that I've really realized like I just don't give a fuck about pretty much everything. Like picked up dog poop with my hand the other day. Just because like nothing's that big of a deal. And like you can make things a big deal and make them harder, or you can just like be present and enjoy your life and make things easier and focus on the things that really do matter. So that's what we talk about in this podcast. We also talk about the future, the new paradigm, where we're headed, how you can actually be grounded in this. We talk about politics. We talk about aliens and AI. We talk about it all and I'm here for it. This is the conversation I've been just aching to have in my soul. And here it is.
Yeah, so a little bit about Debra. She's the host of the I Don't Believe in Astrology podcast. She also is the author of The Missing Element, which we talked about a lot last time that she was on the podcast. So if you haven't checked out that episode, we definitely recommend going back and checking it out. And this time we're talking a bit about her new up and coming book that's going to be releasing in April of 2025 called I Don't Believe in Astrology, the same name as her podcast. And Debra's a hoot. She's so hilarious. We talk a lot about how she has the Genius Freak channel, and a lot of the things that she says totally fall in alignment with that, which we just absolutely love. We definitely laughed throughout this whole conversation. And about Debra, she's an astrologer, a psychotherapist, a spiritual guide, and she's madly in love with astrology. Once where she was a skeptic, she now believes in the wisdom of astrology and that it's an undeniable, dependable, and healing balm for society as we faced post-pandemic life and climate crisis. For Debra, astrology is medicine. While there is no one-size-fits-all approach, she has developed a unique psychological spiritual model. She connects with each person with whom she practices on a deeper level in order to empower them to their full potential. Okay, so without further ado, we are so grateful to be welcoming back onto the show Debra Silverman. Debra, thank you for being here. We were really looking forward to seeing you again because obviously we loved getting to meet with you last time and our community did too. So we were really celebrating knowing that you're coming on again today. But I want to ask you, how are you feeling today?
Besides not finding my headset?
Yes, just that. Well, that can be included actually.
Okay, well, that was, that feeling when you're looking everywhere and you're getting slightly neurotic, and it happens to the best of us.
Yes.
Especially if you're a Gemini. It's not part of your language, but in my language, Geminis can't remember where their head is. Other than that small little detail that has no meaning at all because it's still working. I'm in a very excitable era. My chart is on fire, and I have an amazing team, and my school is filled up with women coming out everywhere. So I'm in a very abundant, I call it the bun dance. I'm doing the bun dance and I'm feeling very energetic. Mostly I have to manage my calm so that I don't get too excited.
Stay grounded. Oh my goodness, that's so exciting. I love the bun dance. I'm here for it. And I resonate with that Gemini head falling off energy that is like my life right now because I just had a baby 6 months ago. And right before this, getting her down, nanny canceled, all the things. And I swear the last 6 months I could describe it as not even knowing where my head is. And I'm a Gemini rising. So
yes,
that really just
your chart. That's right. Remember this. You're
resonates.
a Gemini. And did you know that today, you're not going to believe this, Jupiter is sitting on your Mars. This happens once every 12 years. So it's a very expansive, it's not just today, it's been going on for about a month where you really are, like me, expanding.
Yeah, that's so
Wow.
crazy because I remember like a month ago where everyone was saying, I think it was like Mars retrograde or something, and everyone was like, oh, it might feel harder for things to get going. And I was literally thinking, I don't know. I feel like I just got this like rev under me and shit's just taken off. And we planned a whole retreat to Egypt in this time.
In 1
And
month.
in 1 month.
And we're going in 2 months.
Yep, we're going in April. We have 30 people going with us. Like we just like
That's so what's going on
it
in
just
your chart.
happened.
It does not
Yeah.
surprise me. So everything goes in seasons. That's just the rules of the universe. Like there's these cyclical, because it's not always like this. Like Jupiter's in
Yeah.
Gemini, your Gemini rising, it's sitting on your soul. It's affecting my personality. And there are seasons when things just go down. And we kept the dark night of the soul, Saturn return, where those eras come and you're being forced into humility because you just had a breakup, or you're really confused what to do with your life, or you feel like you don't really have a calling. Like there's all these icky, and then all of a sudden the opposite occurs. Like I just had a baby and I just got married and I just found this new job, and it goes like that. Like you have to know that from the elder, everything's a wave.
Yeah. I am riding the wave right now and just fully in surrender mode. Like, okay, just getting carried along here and I'm gonna do the bun dance and also try to catch some sleep when I can.
And sleeping is so important. It's such a powerful medicine that people have been finding. I've been talking a lot about this. The transition on the earth right now is so radical in so many ways, whether it's what's going on in the environment or politics or what's going on in your personal life, and sleep. I hear it so often. Some people really can't get their nervous system to stop.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to know more about your perspective on the time right now on Earth and how, yeah, I think that everybody listening everyone collectively knows like things feel chaotic right now. They also feel expansive in some way, but they also feel like crumbling in another way. Things are falling, things are rising, and it's very unknown for a lot of people. And it's very scary for a lot of people. But then for other people, it's like, okay, I'm going to focus on working my light and seeing what I
Going
can
to
do.
Egypt and going back to the
Yep.
relics, memories, to the elders, to find out where the wisdom started that we can count on, which is the elements that every magician, everybody that knows the tarot deck, which I wonder if your audience is familiar.
Oh, yeah.
Very first card is the Fool. You come onto this life and you're like, wait, what was I thinking? And I ended up with what's her name for my mom? That was silly. And how did I get him for my brother? He's not nice to me. And that's the Fool. Like, whoa. And then the very first stop, card number 1, because the Fool is 0. Card number 1 is the Magician sitting on a table with 4 elements. And so the first stop is, if you guys are going to play magic down here, you've got to know the 4 elements. And that is the mastery of this existence. And it's in my book, The Missing Element. It's just a simple way to learn it, but there is a responsibility like you're describing. Yes, we are in a major change. And yes, astrologically, 2025 is just the beginning. 2026, when we're a year from now, you'll remember this podcast and go, wow, she described something radical was going to happen, but we couldn't have seen it, except to your point. It's breaking, it's shifting, it's requiring something different. Our children aren't going to be raised in the same way. Our grandparents don't fit in anymore. AIET.
Yeah.
Words that my grandma never knew. She didn't know that you could do astrology in cyberspace. What does cyberspace mean? My grandma, what are you talking about? Cyberspace. I don't know what you're talking about, Debbie.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, it's really a trip to be alive in this time. And I think, Shayna and I talk about this a lot, that we just resonate so deeply with the future, like the future of humanity. And we also resonate so deeply with like ancient humanity. But right now, in this point of humanity, we've always been like, what the hell am I doing here? Because things just feel so clunky and awkward. And like, this is not how it's supposed to be. And, you know, as small children, we've always felt like, I don't fit into this world. But now we realize it's because we're here to build a new one. And that our souls came in at this exact time for that reason. And that every single person who's alive right now, all of us together, our souls chose this time for a really powerful reason. So I'm really grateful that we're having this conversation, because it's so true that when we can get connected to our empowerment, like when we can connect with ancient wisdom and go to Egypt, when we can connect with the elements and tools like tarot, we start to find our empowerment as creative builders of the new world, and we stop feeling so overwhelmed by the chaos and the crumbling.
Aren't you Aquarius rising?
Yeah. Aquarius rising. Yeah.
I'm here. This is so sad. What I'm going to do is take your charts right now and put them in my spot where I can speak to it.
Okay.
And when I looked, I saw that you were Aquarius. You're so speaking your function. It's so interesting.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that you promise this life. And first, before I get to you, if you think, and now that you just had a child, if you think about that moment where you go into the hospital or you're doing it at home, I did it at home, and you're about to give birth and you're screaming and you're yelling and you're in so much pain and everything seems wrong. Like if you didn't know, you would think, oh, are you kidding me? Take this thing off. Well, that's what's going on Earth right now. Mom is screaming and yelling. She's in transition. She's ready to birth a new world. But to your point, Dana, we don't know how to, if you're in that room and a woman's giving birth and she's screaming out, if you're not a midwife and you haven't been trained and you don't know magic, you'll be like, something is so wrong. But that's not true in the big picture, said the astrologer. You know, when you stand up and you look at the long view and you realize, wow, astrologically, every outer planet is going to shift in 2025. It starts right now, like Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. This has never happened in the history. We've looked back thousands of years. It's never been that all 4 outer planets all shifted into fire and air.
Wow.
All of them. And it starts now and it will last for the next 20 years. So from 2026 to 2036, it's so funny to say that because we can't even get there, but the amount of change. So it's the babies coming right now. It's like 6 months ago you had a baby. Well, in 6 months we're having a baby, because when Saturn enters Aries at the end of this year, so from May 25th to August 31st, for the first time in 30 years, Saturn enters Aries. It's fire. So starting, any of you that are Aries or your fire signs, Leo, Sag, or your Gemini, Aquarius, Libra, you're going to really feel like, oh, I have this newfound energy, especially Geminis who have Jupiter in their sign. And then as it goes through 2026, that August, it finishes, it goes back into Pisces, and then it returns in exactly a year from now. All the planets will be in fire and air. They don't go retrograde. That's what I'm describing. It goes forward, it goes backwards. So from May 25th to the August 31st, it goes into Aries and it goes backwards, and then Neptune goes into Aries and it goes backwards, and Pluto goes into Aquarius. Now that's the only one that's settled. It's at 1 degree. So they're all moving. Neptune's going to go into Aries. Uranus goes into Gemini, which is very exciting. There's a radical change coming. So you're right. But what do you do to prepare? Well, if you're giving birth, you call your girlfriends. You're like, we need to go fix that room. We need to get that whole thing set up. We need to get the diapers. We got to go buy those little outfits. We got to prepare. And we got to prepare for an initiation, because you will never be the same. As soon as you have a baby, bye-bye ego. What babies do is they destroy your ego. Because it's all about them. No more about you. And that lasts for a good 18 years. Said the mother of 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds. I mean, they're so old. It's crazy. But I remember that transition being both exquisite, because you know you're in such an initiation. So is the planet. But on the other side, you're like, everything's different. You'll never be able to think about yourself again without considering that baby. So that's the planet right now. We're in an initiation. We're about to have a baby. We're a little bit scared, so we should be. And the wisdom, said the astrologer, is getting to know your system or your human design system. Like, I'm a freak.
Yes, you are. Genius
A
freak.
genius freak.
Loud and proud. The whole last time we met, we were just in awe of your genius freakness.
Yeah, but I felt kind of hurt. It was a little insulting. Like I remember hanging up after our podcast and going, is that a compliment or an insult? I'm a freak. But
Well,
I've learned to make it an asset.
it's
Yeah, it
definitely
is
an asset.
absolutely an asset. I
But
mean,
not if you want to be normal and you wanted to fit in and you wanted to be part.
No.
No, that's not going to
yeah.
work.
Well, no, I mean, it'd go against your design. I mean, normal for you is being completely not normal. It's being ahead of the curve, is being guiding people towards a better future direction. And it comes through in this genius way, right? It's like the people who see you and recognize you, they see your genius. Now, the people who are like, Joe Schmo at the grocery store and you tell him something like the earth's giving birth right now, they're going to be like, you're a fucking
You're a freak.
right? But everyone listening here is like, holy shit, everything you just said just resonated
It's
so
genius.
deeply and blew my mind. And I'm like buzzing because I'm so excited to have this conversation with you. So it's just all
You're
about,
saying the freak depends on the audience. Yes.
yes.
The astrological implications. And there's a couple podcasts I just put out that describes for every sign what to look forward to. You know the guy called Amrit in Australia? He's a wonderful man. I forget the name of his podcast, but it's AMRIT. I put out a podcast and I went through every single sign and said what they would be looking for this year to ground. But you can also go on my site. There's 22 certified astrologers who can look at your chart and say, like I just did, like, okay, Shauna, you're definitely in the cycle of expansion right now. Babies in Egypt. And of course, Dana, of course you're talking about the future. You're Aquarius rising. Your whole lifetime you've been hurrying up. You're always in the future. Like, slow down, honey.
Yeah.
So all of you have a particular temperament and a constitution, and I happen to be a freak. And it took me so many years. You don't even know, because I'm almost 70. It took me so many years to get comfortable with, I grew up in the 50s, for God's sake. It was like, it wasn't good to be a freak then. You can imagine when I got to graduate school and I said, I want to study astrology. I was studying clinical psychology, and my supervisor was like, nobody in this, no, you're not bringing astrology into the school. I was like, oh, yes, I am. And because I guess that's the freak energy. I never gave up. Like I didn't take no for an answer, but I met with a lot of resistance, you guys. You're standing on the shoulders of my generation.
Oh, yeah.
Of women that said, yes, you can consult stars and human design and gene keys and enneagrams. There's so many sources to support us to get clear on who am I? What the hell, the fool? What did I do signing up for this place? And now what was my promise again? Because that's what astrology, I know your system does this too. Like you helped me realize that was my promise.
Yeah. And it's so powerful getting to put languaging to these things that are felt and that are energetic and that can be so convoluted or murkied up by the collective consciousness and by our conditioning and by, love sometimes. People wanting us to have success, so they tell you what worked for them, but it's not what actually works for you as an individual, as a unique energetic being. So I really see all of these different modalities as just a form of liberation and empowerment.
Yeah, I can so see this. It's so cool. I remember this last time, both of your charts scream, I have to share. There's the really intense one, Shayna. I have to go deep. I can't tolerate, because you've got Mercury conjunct Pluto. So your mind has to undo everything and go really gets obsessed.
Oh yeah, it's exhausting.
But it's what you're built for. And then we have our sweet Dana, who is the Leo factor. Like, are we having fun yet? Because that deep shit gets heavy after a while.
Yeah, right? Amen. I only want to have fun in everything that I do. Yeah, dance party.
Double Leo. Okay, well, and so everyone in this room has a particular configuration. And this is what the beauty of human design is. It's same thing with astrology. To your point, is we have a language. So in astrology, while Saturn's been in Pisces for the last 2.5 years and everybody's microdosing and doing ayahuasca and doing probiotics and taking every supplement under the sun to figure out how they can, I mean, I can't, it's so crazy. That's Pisces. Pisces is like, I'm a little confused, but I know there's some alternative versions of this reality. Why don't we have a drink? Just give me a little soft focus here. I'm going to just give a moment. I'm going to go do a journey. I mean, everybody, think about how many people in the last 2.5 years, have been using alternate means to create understanding of this crazy place.
Oh, yeah.
That's going to change. Just announcement. So that was the last 2.5 years. It's changing as I described in May till August, and then it'll be all 2026 will be in Aries. And now the conversation is, what do I do to keep myself vital, to keep my energy going? That's going to be the next conversation. Like, I have to know how to be motivated to work out, to actually take my body and give it some energy, because in that next era, the activist, the warrior, the person standing up for what they believe in, we're going to start fighting. Like, my prediction is a civil war. I know nobody wants to hear it, but there's no way America can survive this political atmosphere. Whoever you voted for, I don't care. It's created absolutely. I mean, whoever would have won, we would have had a war. So
I literally say that all the time. Yeah. Like, it doesn't matter who would win. The crumbling's going to happen either way. And it would just take a different route, but it's going to the same direction. And there's going to be conflict. There's going to be, it's scary when things crumble. It's scary going through birth, like you said. It's
scary. That was
painful.
The craziest. Yeah. Oh my God.
And that's what we're going through. Like, that's such a good analogy. And it's like, we can get so tripped up in our head and all of the things. And it's definitely not lost on me, the privilege of being able to step back and see the bigger picture and connect and learn from different modalities like astrology or human design or whatever it is. Because we don't live in an active emergent moment. But yeah, it's going to crumble either way. I really, like, you saying civil war to me isn't like, oh my gosh. It's like, yeah. And
we have
through that, we're going to get something better, I feel.
There's too many hungry people. It doesn't make sense to me. The whole system, to your point, what Dana said, there's a new future that we can't see. Welcome to AI and welcome to ET. These little funny words that didn't exist for my grandma, my bubby. And those words, which I can't figure out because I can't use the chat, whatever it's called. But but I'm so interested to know that the next generation, your daughter, did you have a girl?
Yeah.
Is going to bring you into a alternate world that we can't recognize because it's just like if somebody would have told my grandmother, you're going to carry this thing around with you and it will have the answers to every single one of your kids' birthdays. You'll know all of your friends, everything. You'll be able to call them, write them across the world, no charge. The phone will be free. You can call Europe. It's not even, what? Like, these were thoughts that would never have been able to sit with her. Well, it's saying, said to you, we're going to live in a society where we have to sit in circles, where women have to be leaders, where there's no longer a separation between black and white or sexual preference. That's a ridiculous conversation. We'll know who the leaders are. We won't care what they're, and they will show up with natural organic impulse because they'll be following their human design, their chart, and their Enneagram and their gene keys.
Yeah. Absolutely. And everything that you're saying resonates so much with us on a human design perspective. We talk about the new paradigm, which the man who downloaded human design from this, higher source, and it came through him and it showed him how all of these different systems come together to show you this master system. In that, he also really got strongly this download about 2027 being this a huge changing of the keys where we're in a completely new paradigm shift. And when he talks about what he feels is going to come from it, he's really kind of scary and negative, but I think he was really trying to get people's attention and really kind of like shock and awaken you into it. But he literally talks about how it's going to be like feast and famine. There's going to be people who are, hoarding and being selfish. And then there's people who are going to be fighting in the streets. And we're all just like monkeys that are going to kill each other in the streets. And it's going to be chaos. And there's nothing
is he still alive?
No, he passed away.
He left after he told us that story.
Yeah. But so people ask us a lot. They're like, what the heck? Like, what is that about? And, we look into this changing of the paradigm, like everything that we're saying, everything crumbling, but also this opportunity to build anew again. And for us, it's really like we are in this time of potential in the change, but us as individuals are the ones who are empowered to say, how are we going to make this change? And what are we doing as an individual to make sure that we're not living in fear, that we're not living in scarcity mindset, that we're remembering to love ourselves so that we can love one another, so that we can take that same potential, but live it out on a higher frequency, on a higher plane. So will there be chaos and potentially civil wars and fights? Like, yeah, maybe. But also, is it our sacred responsibility to show up and do our very best to try as hard as we can to come with love, to come with empowerment, to come with authenticity, to share what we know our soul is here to share? So, there's a lot. My point in bringing this up is in human design, that's a big topic. How do we know if this is going to be the scariest case scenario or the best case scenario? And how do we choose that? So I'm curious to ask you, when it comes to fear of these changes, or when it comes to trust and love and empowerment, sort of seeing that higher view and having faith in the fact that we'll make it through all of this, what is your advice that you give people if they are feeling just terrified and overwhelmed?
Such a great question. I love how articulate you are. It was so beautiful. I really saw your Leo in action.
Thanks.
The advice I give to people is we are in a calm right now. We have another year. The whole of 2025, while it will be bumpy, will not be 2027. So take advantage of these moments and celebrate this life right now with smell the coffee, smell the wine, smell the toast in the morning, smell the flowers you walk by, take off your shoes, drink fresh, cold water. Go, we don't know where the food comes from anymore. I have become a master of the farmers markets. I know how to take off my shoes. I walk barefoot most of the time, but that's because where I live. I am on a bicycle. I don't drive a car anymore. So I've minimized my world. It's an electric bike. I've minimized my world so that I can reduce my appetite for extreme states that are beyond my control right now, and just stay inside, because that's what's going to be required as the time goes on. Your world's going to get smaller. Right now we've got this let's fly off to Hawaii this weekend, let's go off and see Egypt, let's go, okay, get on a plane and go do that. The implications of 8 billion people calling Amazon every day and flying to Egypt will not continue. So enjoy this moment. We have a year. 2025 is your year, especially you Geminis, and there'll be others. It's also true of Cancer. As of right when Jupiter enters Cancer in 6 months after May, then the Cancers get to expand and do the travels. And you'll see when you go listen to that podcast. The point is, right now, that's what I love to live in, because I don't know. I do think you're right, Dana. I had a dream in 2021. I had several dreams with Trump. I don't know why he liked me. In one dream, I got in trouble. All the women in the room were like, she's a Democrat. I was like, don't get mad at me. He was sitting close with me. We were having this great conversation. Anyways, in one dream, we walked into every room in the White House and we unplugged all the plugs. We went to every single room and I said, what are you doing? I woke up and I was like, he's unplugging the old system as he predicted. He's done. Well, that's going to diminish and break down the old boys club, because it's going to break. You can't unplug everything, stop everything, and think there'll be organization. And that's not a bad thing, Trump. You did what spirit has inspired you to do. And now your question is, how do we, one, stay in the here and now, deal with the fear when we hear these stories, and they are probably somewhat real, but they're not here now. Come back. So stay with me now in this reality. Spend every day in gratitude. Put your hands on your heart. Walk around with, I can't believe how lucky I am. I can't believe I'm looking at this phone, talking to this podcast, looking in this computer, having this body, watching the wind. I mean, how did I get so lucky? So do that daily, moment to moment. That baby's only going to be a baby. Turn up the appreciation, number one. Number two, what is fear but forgetting everything's all right? So now, if the premise of my psychology, said the astrologer of almost 50 years, is that every chart I look at, honest to God, you are so Aquarius rising and you are so Scorpio. You are so double Leo and you are such Gemini rising. This isn't going to go away. This system is as old as the mountains, as the stars themselves. So good news, we can trust without a shadow of a doubt. Astrology, human design's giving us a system. We know the elements are as old as they can be. We learn about meditation and water. We learn how to read these cool books on all these systems and air. We look at our organic food and we take care of our body and earth. And we don't forget to have an orgasm. Someone's got to have an orgasm. The fire element, don't stop having fun, ladies. So you pay attention to the 4 elements every single day. And when that occurs, and it will occur, I'm going to suggest as an astrologer, it would be dishonest to not tell you that 2027, he's right. The radical change begins in full bloom. Better word, and the only way I can prepare is to regulate my nervous system now. So I let myself cry. This is a funny story. I don't know why I'm telling you. I haven't told this story. Last year, my computer, it's funny, I gave it to a friend, an old computer. I didn't know that that it had memory hooked up to the cloud, to all its memory. And she took it in and she cleaned out all the memory. And when I went on my computer back at the ranch, everything I owned, every single story I wrote, every poem I wrote, and I'm a writer, was gone. And I tell you, gone. We took it to every single source we could to find out how to get that thing back. Everyone that knew everything. And I was in my house. I got the willies. And one of my sons was home. And for 2 days, I couldn't stop crying.
Oh my
I was a
goodness.
wreck. I was like, all of my childhood, all of that is gone. Like the people in Los Angeles, every single thing I owned is gone. And after I cried, and this is why I speak to this, you have to be human. You have to be a wreck for a while. Your nervous system has to go out of control. Ask her giving birth. You are completely out of control. You're swearing, you're pissed off, you're telling everyone to shut up. It's like, who is this witch that just showed up? The bitch. I call it. My midwife said, get ready. You're going to be a bitch. I was like, I'm not a bitch. Oh my gosh, stop it. I was like, oh! You become very, very intense when there's a crisis. How dare you think you'll be spiritual in that moment? Wrong. Permission to be human and cry and be upset. And then the observer kicks in. And then I remembered that fear was forgetting everything's all right. Because it wasn't fear. I was just so sad. It was, how could I? And I did memorize some of the childhood poetry. Once upon a time, when time was out of the question, once was all it took to learn a lesson, just once. That came through me when I was 17 years old.
Wow, I love
Wow. I
that.
have chills with
Once
everything
upon
you're
a time,
saying.
when time was out of the question, once was all it took to learn a lesson, just once.
Yeah.
So that was a childhood that stayed with me. So much of it left. And honestly, now it's so sweet that I can say, it's so funny because I was so terrorized when I lost it all. And I hardly ever talk about it because it's so awful. Nothing compared to what happened to LA in the fires or what's happening to people that are homeless or refugees. And to me, it was everything. And this is back to your question about the future. I had to regulate my nervous system, and how I did it was crying. Deep, deep, deep. My poor kid, I felt like, why does he have to hear this? I wailed. And then I felt the click, my observer clicked in, and I was like, take a breath, and that's the end of it. You quit crying. We're done now, Deb. And don't talk about it because it's just going to stir the pot. Tell your best friend and she can cry with you, and then move on. So the process of preparing for the future is authenticity in the moment as a daily practice. And if you suppress, or you're fake, or you're denying, or you're not being honest, or you're addicted and you keep looking at the scrolling and you keep eating chocolate when no one's looking, and you have that little package of cigarettes, and all that's fine in moderation. But if you have any suspicion that there's an addiction occurring, or there's a part of you that's secretive because you don't want to admit that you're not really in love, all those secrets that you've stashed in the back, that if you start up leveling that now, when 2027 gets here and you're feeling like, I feel more myself than I've ever felt before, I can handle whatever life's going to hand me because I've proven to myself through difficulty, by being ruthlessly honest, that I can be myself and it will be okay.
Mm-hmm. That one just sound clip of just that alone is, I think describes exactly how, I think I said that exact sentence yesterday to my therapist. because I literally, that feeling of safety within authenticity, like safety within self, with being radically honest. Like there's nothing, you can't pull the rug out from under something that's so true, right? It's just like is. And it's not something that can be taken away or manipulated or forced or broken down. Like it's just is. And that is stability, that is safety. And so even when everything externally that isn't you is crumbling, or in the future is possibly crumbling, but it's not right now, that stability of self, of really knowing who you are, really being honest with yourself and authentic with other people and in every moment as much as you can, right? Like it's a practice. Catching yourself when you're not and being honest about that
And
and then
know who
coming
your
back.
people are, because you can't do, I mean, you two are best
Yeah.
friends. If you don't have a best friend, you guys, because that's a thing. Like,
Oh,
who do you
yeah.
that's what therapists are for. Who do you
Yeah.
say? Like, honestly, I see a therapist and I'm in love with her. I want to marry her. Well, maybe it's just that she listens to me so much. I don't know, but what I love about her is, to your point, is the reflection of me being fucked up without me having to color it.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
honest disclosure in her presence without being self-conscious.
Mm. Yeah. And judging and all of the things that we put on with our mind. And that's a huge thing that human design talks about with this new paradigm. It's like we're moving into this era of the individual. And how does the individual, being completely different, completely authentic, completely honoring exactly what is true for them, how do they fit into community and the collective and family and all of these things we've spent the last hundreds of years building, these structures, these jobs, these governments, these whatever, you have to fit in. Now that's crumbling. How do you as an individual feel? How do you honor yourself while still having connection with other people? And so,
You're talking
you
about the
know,
Aquarian age. You're singing it to Dana. This is the Aquarian
yeah.
age is individuals,
Mhm.
but it's also choosing your family. Do you know that we've never had in the history, like in my family, I grew up as a little Jewish girl with a bunch of Jewish people around me in a town that was all Jewish. Like there was synagogues all over. Honestly, it was unbelievable that bar mitzvah time, because I was a cute little girl, so I got invited to so many bar mitzvahs. I had dresses in my, oh my God, all this Jewish culture, and then I realized that I was kind of a metaphysical woo girl, freak.
Yeah.
And then I had to pull away from my family. This is what I want to say to all of you. The Aquarian age is permission to find your people away from your bloodline. Never happened before. In the past, we lived in a culture, it was called a shtetl in Jewish and Yiddish. A shtetl was a small group of people. Everyone knew everybody. And if God forbid you wanted to leave that and go somewhere else, you didn't have food and you didn't have a wife and you didn't have a kid and you didn't have children. You were banished.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
anymore.
No,
Now
that,
you get to fly anywhere, you get to change your family, you get to pick your friends, you get to change your culture, you get to change the color of your hair, you get to change the quality of your skin, you get to change your body. This whole thing is a movie, and it's called The Aquarian Age.
yeah. And it's going to be like exponentially times infinity blown out of the water with AI
It's
and
moving
with
so much
maybe
quicker.
aliens swooping in and just changing everything we know completely. Like it's, yeah, like you said, we can't imagine it. But I was having this conversation the other day about AI being, um, human design talks about like the kids that are born after 2027 being completely different, like different energy type, having more different centers and being able to have different like gifts, like
Like telepathy. Have you
telepathy.
listened to the telepathy tapes?
I
No.
haven't, but someone just sent them to us. It sounds
Excuse
so
me. Stop
amazing.
the bus.
Yeah.
The number 9. I listened to all the number 9. You also, you want to skip the whole thing because you don't have that attention span.
Yeah, I don't.
It's the future. You just named it, Shauna. It's the future.
Okay.
It is where these different skill sets that are operative, that are already, they're latent in us. Like
Yeah.
my intuition has grown so much as I've given myself permission.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Mhm.
And isn't that the
My
truth for
my
everything?
physical body has grown so much as I learned how to eat properly. I didn't know that aging required less food. If you pay attention to what it takes to keep your chi moving. And I have kind of, I mean, people never believe I'm as old as I am. I love when they say that. And I show them my, they're like, no. I'm like, yeah. And the codes that I were handed then, to your point, I had to update them now. And then those kids are going to update them again. And AI will come in and there'll be a new society. And we will grieve, just like I grieve missing my grandmother. I want to go to her house and have that chicken soup.
Yeah.
I want her to say, Debbie. I want that voice. I want it.
Well, just like I grieve having the freedom I did before a baby was here. Like I grieve being able to just make one decision as little as taking a shower without having to like consider like the world might fall apart if I do. Like, I grieve that.
So
And in the
true.
same breath, I'm like so grateful and in awe and all of the things.
That's so honest, you Scorpio. You most women don't say that, but that is so true.
Oh, I've said it all.
She's honest.
I have not sugarcoated any part of this experience.
Which I love
can't.
that this is part of what we're saying is the most important thing to move into the future is being like so radically honest. And when we're talking about these children that are going to be born coming soon, one of the qualities that they might have is like being incapable of lying emotionally. Like it's literally like it doesn't even cross their mind that that's a possibility. And if someone is, being false or withholding or sugarcoating something to one of them, they're going to see right through it and be like, you're full of shit, that you have zero validity. You're not a leader. You're not someone I want to follow. Like they're going to see that emotional untruthfulness as like, you don't deserve to lead. And so we are not going to listen to you. We're not going to follow you. So this conversation right now about being more radically authentic and honest and doing that internal work to really make sure that that's true and sharing that is like, it seems like the most important thing to prepare for so many reasons, like what you were sharing, Debra, but also kind of looking at it from this perspective, the new generation and what's going to be valuable and what's going to be needed sort of in that new time frame. I mean, it's really interesting to think about. And I feel like we've come from a world where people who are good at lying when they're scared or lying when they don't feel confident have risen to the top. They've been the number one CEOs, bullshit artists, politicians, all of that stuff. And so that world is crumbling and changing. I think it's so fascinating to hear kind of like the different threads that we're bringing into this conversation around that. But, I think it's also something really important that you guys have both just shared is that we can be excited about a new world and also know that that means we're going to be grieving something that we're losing or that has changed. And I think that's really important to say for people to just know and hold space for that and know that that's normal. Like there is a sadness to let go of something that you once knew.
That once I'll never be sad about letting go of, which your kids are going to have, never using the word war again. Not miss that. I will be in heaven to know that ammunition is not the number one source of all our tax money. I will be in heaven to know that the policemen are being honored because they don't have to wear guns. And they walk through the streets with conflict resolutions and they know how I will be so excited to think about the teachers who know your chart when you come into school.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, my Star Wars ass is like, I can't wait until there's not money anymore. And like, you just have a little machine that generates your food and all food is free and
organic.
And we trade in, passion and skills of like, ooh, I want to learn art. So I'm going to share that. I want to learn science and I'm passionate about that. I'm going to go into that direction. Like that's where I'm like, okay, I'm also excited to just speed things up really fast and be able to, things are so fast right now. Like you can have a thought and share it with somebody across the world in 2 seconds. But I'm excited for the space between us to not be so slow. And for things to speed up. So I'm like, every time people are like panicking about the current situation, there's this thing in human design called your perspective. And my perspective, how I'm designed to see the world is called possibilities. And I really see that there can be endless possibilities. And I always feel this feeling of like, yeah, but aliens could literally come in tomorrow and nobody's going to be talking about like the war between this country or that country or, what the price of eggs are. Like literally nobody's going to give a fuck about any of all of our issues that are the forgetting that everything's all right, right? That is going to come back to like, oh, hold on, totally different perspective shift collectively. And
But
I don't need to worry about
know,
making that happen.
and you know that time when you were in transition in the room about to give birth, did you give birth in a hospital or at home?
I did. I gave birth in a hospital.
So there's that window of time where you begin to transition and you know it's coming, just like we all know it's coming, but you aren't prepared for those last unbelievable waves when those are incredible contractions and you're like, oh, and now we're at the end of the movie. We're not there yet, you guys. We're just walking into the hospital. She's screaming. I mean, her water broke. We are definitely at the 11th hour. Her water's broken. We're walking into the hospital. Everyone's getting awareness. But, it's not a big rush. We're like, oh, she hasn't even started. Don't worry. That's right where we're at in the planet. So in the name of that, you feel the anxiety, you feel the anticipation, you feel the excitement, you feel all this, and you future pace about what your kid's going to be when it grows up, what you just said. There'll be this time when the ETs will sit amongst us at the leadership tables. But right now, we're in the hospital room going, where are we putting her? Which room is she going in? I never saw that very second. And I think the wisdom for those of us watching is everyone in this room listening and all over cyberspace, you're the midwife. So you're the one sitting in the room waiting for her because you knew she'd arrive, but you have to be the calm one because you did your own work, as you described, authenticity, taking care of your body, doing your water, the 4 elements, really paying attention. And then she comes in the room and you're like, I got you. And while everyone else is going, there's a midwife going, excuse me, because I did it at home in the water with a midwife. Yeah. And I knew it. My whole family thought I was crazy because here's how crazy I am, freak. I never went to the doctor while I was pregnant once, not once.
Wow.
I just kept saying, I'm a freak. I mean, it makes me feel better saying that. I knew it was natural. Everyone's giving birth. I've never felt so good. I've never felt so beautiful. I'm enjoying. Why are you wanting to take me to the doctor?
Wow. That's
Now
amazing.
that's radical trust. And that comes from an elder who was young at the time, but was old on the inside. And there's many of you in this room who are old, who are wanting to be midwives or wanting to work with people who are dying or wanting to work as a therapist or wanting to be a human design healer as an astrologer, because you got the memory of who it is you are when you're sitting in the presence of pain or sadness or fear. And then others of you are like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't want to be in the room. Oh God, don't pick me. And you're the ones in this transition that would really serve you to get your human design and your astrology done, because you've got to figure out what your strengths are and lean on them. And maybe your childhood didn't give you a chance, all the programming, all the expectations, all society, all the stuff that this old world, you guys grew up in. What years did you grow up in?
We were both born in 1990. So the 90s and the 2000s were the last of the veil being completely closed. I mean, that's how I feel.
Before the internet, but still like young enough to like really learn it all right when it was happening.
Did you have Mario Brothers where they jumped off those little, did you have Mario Brothers?
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
That was the entrance of AI, that little guy. Wait, so let's just review that. So you were born at a time when there was no internet and there was no phones. And that's a really big sign of you knowing in your heart of hearts, everyone listening, you've already been through an initiation because we've completely left that behind. There's no resemblance of that work.
Yeah.
Everybody on the planet, I mean, there's billions of people with a phone in their hand. So in the same way, that transition was unpredictable. And some of you were lucky enough to be in a generation where you had friendships like these girls. I'm going to just say one thing that's really important in this podcast. It's one of my deepest holy lands. It's called friendship. If I had to say what will prepare me for the later days, is that I know who my people are. And it's unfortunately not my bloodline. Personally, I didn't get that gift. My kids, but not my little Jewish family didn't show up for me in a way that made me feel wanted. So I had to go elsewhere. Now that's, some of you in the room have the family dynamic. You've been blessed beyond measure and these people adore you and call you every day. Some of you have no family dynamic and you're looking for your people. And part of my system in our school, what I teach in astrology, we have a huge network of people in my astrology community that are all slightly weird. That's probably because I'm a freak. Mm-hmm. And so everyone there, the weirder you are, the more comfortable you feel. Find your community. Find the people. And if you don't have a friend, here's what I tell everyone. Go become one. Just choose someone that you're going to say, I've never had a best friend, but I'm going to be this. Even if she doesn't reciprocate, even if she's not there for you, you're going to practice the muscle called, just like a baby, I'm going to selflessly give and put my ego aside. Now that's a big order, but I'm going to tell you that friendship with your husband, with your lover, with your best friend is the holy land that calms down the nervous system and prepares you for the future because you know who your people are.
Mm-hmm. That is absolutely true. I feel like in my experience, I mean, I can feel when we talk about regulating your nervous system, crying, yes, for me, dance party or like trail running until I literally fall down on my knees like such a drama queen, yes. But also calling one of my close friends and just sharing where you're at, it's amazing to feel the shift. You feel everything inside of you shift into this place of safety, knowing that you are just witnessed as you are and that there's another person there with you. Like just that, being with me, being with someone, the fact that that is so healing and creates so much safety and reminds you that everything is going to be all right and that you don't need to be in that fear. It's really true. And I think one of the downsides of this technology age, I mean, it's amazing that we get to meet like this in these little boxes. And I mean, we can feel you. We can feel your frequency. We can feel your heart. I feel like even before getting on this call, we were interconnected, knowing that we're going to be in this technology. So technology is amazing. And it helps us connect with people all over the world with our same frequency, with our liked interests. But however, I think we're also kind of missing that just being able to call someone intimately, right? And practicing that, valuing it, knowing that it's important. I feel like for a lot of people, the economy is feeling like it's really dragging them down and they're putting so much intention into money right now. And we're kind of forgetting, we're forgetting a lot of the other things that are perhaps the most valuable in our lives, that bring the most value. And, real value. Yeah. So I love that message of your friendship. And I love that if you feel like you don't have it, creating it and taking responsibility for that. I mean, that's been a lesson that I've learned a lot in my marriage is like the things that I want from my partner. Like, why don't I try giving them first? Put that out there and see how that feels. If I want support from someone, why don't I try supporting them first and just see if I open up that lane? And so often it absolutely does. And it's like, we're all waiting for someone else to invite us in to give love. But it's like, if you can know your astrology and know your human design, then you can really love yourself enough to be that person that then reaches out to the other and kind of opens that doorway for people.
I love so much.
It's so interesting. Like, human design talks about how the Big Bang was was conception and was like, the spark of an egg, like in a sperm, right? Like conception happening.
They call that orgasm. Yes.
Yes. Yes. And then we've just been expanding this little fetus, the universe. And so with this analogy of like this new time, being birthed, it just seems really, I don't know if like what's going to come out of that, but it's just really interesting to me how it's like this fetus growing and maybe it's birthed and then we're like all this huge intergalactic baby now in the world. Who knows? And we're just all like little humans are just little cells or, whatever's in a human body.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. Every soul, while it is so meaningful in this existence, this reality we're in, the strand of reality we're in, we identify to our ego and our birth date and our name and our body type and all that. But as soon as you die, announcement, you won't remember a thing. Poof. You won't remember what's his name or what's her name or your mom or your dad or your dog or I mean, come on. And when you get to the other side, they'll be there in a totally different format and you'll remember their essence. And you'll strip yourself of this whole illusion at this strand of consciousness and go, wow, they had me down there. I totally believed everything. I completely got fooled. I thought that was the only thing going on. And that's what the telepathy tapes activate. You suddenly realize, hold on. Those are autistic children who don't have language, who are hitting themselves, who are completely dysfunctional, so they say, who are brilliant geniuses. And when they found spelling and how to write, they were poets. And they called us muggles. And they were like, all you do is talk.
We are muggles.
Now that's
so true.
But this closed system of the human condition and the 8 billion people, there's another system where there's a way more beings and souls that are not limited to the physical plane, but it's very hard to talk about. And it's so amazing that human design introduces the concepts of the future and of the Big Bang, and they let the mind expand. Only air people, it's not a surprise you're both Gemini and Aquarius rising. Your souls are both air signs because the air component in all of us, which is what mine is, Libra rising. I am endlessly curious. I kind of feel like I got something wrong with me. And that's where these things, I mean, they're dangerous. I'm like, oh my God, I just found out about the ETs. And then I found out they were found. And then they did reverse engineering. And now they're going out to the Senate and they're going to do, I'm like, okay, that was like 3 hours. Deborah, you didn't brush your teeth. What are you doing?
Hilarious.
But that's error. And that's one of the components of this reality that I want to speak to, because in preparation for 2026 and 2027, you've got to be embodied. So look around your room and clean it up. So look around your body and do your exercise. Go do your yoga. Came and went. I mean, I still do it regularly. I'm a yoga freak because I know that this system of my body is required to take me into the future. This temple of mine is treated like holy land. Just like friendship is so holy to me, my body. And I started to learn to say to it, because I just had something wrong with it, and then I had to talk to it. And I started really saying to my body, I love you so much, Deb. Like, I've really come to like, wow, you've been with me for almost 70 years? And you've been taking care of me. Do I take such good care of you? And she said, no. She was like, no, you eat shit food when no one's looking. Come on. And then I call myself out and I recalibrate and I do my healing and I let my authentic human be completely stupid. And then I give her a little hug and I say, honey, we're going to have some moringa this morning. What? Yeah, it's very high green substance that gives you protein. It tastes like shit. Drink it. Okay, Mom. So now I have a really healthy relationship. Pretty much, I'd say 95% of the time, I am in deep honor of this temple, which is why I'm not aging. And I encourage all of you in preparation. It's not just all these fascinating concepts of where the other plans of existence are, where we're, it's also back at the ranch.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that that's a really good reminder, because I, being this air quality and being deeply curious and being so mental, like I could talk about taking care of my body all day long and why and all of the different things, but do I actually physically show up and do it? Not all the time, but I am feeling that that's something that I really want to make a priority, and I'm feeling how important it is. And I also just want to highlight something I love that you're saying is like seeing our friendships as holy, seeing our body as holy, respecting and honoring those things so deeply. I think that a lot of people have honestly lost touch with how to truly honor something and to do something because it feels so sacred and so important, that you have so much love and respect for your body, for your friendships, for the people that you call your soul family. Like, I just think that we've become so overwhelmed by a lot of our responsibility, by a lot of information. We get overwhelmed and we forget how to just see something as sacred in our lives and to revere it. And I think that hearing your words, hearing the way that you experience and embody those things, because you embody them, hearing you talk about it, it initiates you. It's like something inside of you is like, oh yeah, I remember that. And I feel like that's living proof of why, if you are truly embodied, you become such a powerful guide, because every word you say, it's not just about the words. It's like there is a different frequency. The fact that you're embodied, your words initiate, they activate, they are like this beacon that calls out and helps people remember in their own body. And I feel like I'm really excited for the fact that there's a lot of people right now waking up and wanting to do this work, wanting to become more embodied, because it really is like, I think that that's what's been missing from life in general. And I'm curious to kind of ask you and take it back to astrology. And, I love this conversation about the new paradigm and the future and all the things that we can focus on. I feel like it's been so practical and really like grounded, things that people can really sink their teeth into and start practicing. But I also want to ask you, with astrology, what do you think that people need astrology for? for this shift? Like, what are the big reasons why astrology is one of the most powerful tools or sciences that are going to help us? Like, what specifically are people wanting to get out of that?
You know that I've written a new book coming out April 8th,
Yes.
and it's called I Don't Believe in Astrology.
Yes. Same as your podcast too. I wanted to ask you why you chose that name because I love it. I think it's so funny.
I've made all these people that don't believe in astrology since I was a kid. So I just got a nickel for every time they said it. It turned into a book. But here's the thing. It was such a powerful question. In astrology, the medicine of astrology is what you're asking about.
Yeah.
It comes first through the elements. So the first stop in all of our school, my book is called The Missing Element. In every which way, you have to get to know those foundational language. And if you master, which is not a short movie, each of the elements, then you get into the astrology. You go, oh, so my Mercury, the way my mind works, because that's what Mercury describes, is in an earth sign. So then I figured out when I was a kid, well, no wonder I had a learning disability. Because my mind was like, can we eat that thing you just said? Because I didn't get the concept. It didn't, nothing, it took me a lot longer than the other kids. So you can't tell by looking, but I was diagnosed with a learning disability. But they didn't even have that language back then. All I knew was something was wrong with me. So astrology gives the medicine to permission that yes, you're slower, but no, you're not slower. You learn by experience. And once I learned astrology, became like you guys love human design. I fell madly in love with it. I am madly in love with astrology. It's been the longest love affair of my life besides my kids, which are not that old because I found it when I was 20 and I'm almost 70. So it's almost 50 years. That's crazy. Isn't that crazy?
That is
crazy. It's really amazing.
And what your question is what did astrology do? It kept bringing me back, one, to the elements, and two, to the full acceptance of my very small personality. Just kidding. My personality, my personality. I fully accept that. Yes, I walk in the room and people would laugh sometimes, and I didn't say anything funny. And then I found out I have little angels around me that are happy. Because why do people think I'm funny? I didn't say anything. And astrology didn't teach me that. But after I started studying, I realized, oh, I know what that is. That's fire and air. It's what you have, Dana. It's like there is a quality of tickly. I wake up the energetics. I'm not. So that knowing, that medicine gives me permission to cut back to this conversation about authenticity. And it took me many years because I was self-conscious that my personality was so small. It made me self-conscious that I always raised my hand first when they were like, I couldn't, I have these personality traits, the fire element in me gets so excited. And then I tried to hold it back. And then I got an ulcer and my skin broke out and I couldn't control it. And then as the years went on and I studied, the medicine of astrology was and is full acceptance that you have a contract that you made in small print. It's written in hieroglyphics. It's written in human design. And if you remember what the agreement was you made and you get congruent with it, the magic begins. And that's, otherwise, if you're off the path, if you're feeling like life is just not working for you, then come study astrology and ask the question, can you help me remember what I agreed? Because I can't remember.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. And we're talking about how important it is to be radically authentic and radically honest. And if you know what your truth is, then no one can pull that rug out of under you. But it's like, what if you're having trouble achieving those things? Because they're huge. Those are very big, sacred, important. And we're and make sure you're 100% embodied in it. No small feat. So for a lot of us, it's okay, we're going to need a little bit of support in this. We're going to need probably a lot of support. We're going to need a lot of tools. We're going to need all the tools, and you choose the tools that are right for you. So I'm really excited for people to be able to do that more and more. And I feel like that's happening. People are awakening to astrology and human design in the masses. It's happening all around us. I'm really grateful for that. Living in the technology age where people can just turn on a podcast, they can go and find your book really easily, which by the way, your book is already for pre-order. Is that right? Where can people find it?
At Amazon. You go to Amazon under Debra Silverman and you'll see both books, The Missing Element. But yeah, it's scary to write a new book.
Because first of all, there's so many books out there. You know what I mean? When we were writing our book, we always felt like, is this going to make the traction that it's going to make? And also
how did your book do?
It did great. Yeah. It's been 2 years now that it's been out, and it's been really cool because it felt like a birth in our lives. And, there's the everything we talked about with this birth analogy, the fear of it, the moment where you're like, what the hell am I doing? All of those things applied to birthing the book. And then the book was born and she's out in the world. So to watch her reach people and be translated in different languages, like tons of different languages, for people to find that book in their local library in a small little town in Germany, it's just so cool because it lives its own life and you get to watch that and witness that. And it reminds you about that nature of something being born and all of the beauty that comes with it, even though it came with a lot of stress, a lot of hard work, a lot of fear, a lot of like all of the things. So I'm curious, yeah, with you writing this book, how did you feel? Did you feel like it was a new birth for you in your life?
I feel so alone. That was very helpful listening to I have that too. I have that too. I to be honest, and I say this at the end of the book, there's this one line at the very end where I say, I probably shouldn't tell you this, but I didn't want to write it. And that was my ego, and that was my mind being insecure, and I had a lot of insecurity, and my soul was like, excuse me. And they made it irresistible. They threw out a red carpet with the people that I worked with the team, with the editors. I mean, it became a beautiful experience, but to tell the truth, I was reluctant and scared. And there's many of you in this room that I could never write a book. I could never be an astrologer. I could never do human. That is not true. That's your ego. And boy, does your ego evade God's oneness. Your ego is ego. It's like avoiding all of God's encouragement. And then there's your soul, the source of unconditional love, SOUL. And all it wants to do for you is bring you home. But the question is, this is so pertinent to the book, I had to say yes to the part of me that was terrified. Like, how much time is it going to take?
Mm-hmm.
How long do I have to? You have to. What's years? Oh, and then it takes years, and then it takes years. Oh, okay, let's see. I'm a Gemini. Hold on a minute. And then I just got a download. My soul was like, and it was loud. And then I said, I made a pact. I was like, okay, I'm going to write the book if you make this easy. So you can ask if you're resistant or you're unclear. Really, this conversation is less about writing a book. This is about if you're unclear. You said it so well. If you're unclear about who you are, those big giant questions, you need support. And that's what an astrologer or a human design will do. And because my system is steeped in psychology, because I have a master's in clinical psych. So as you know, I went to school and I asked them, can I do astrology? And they said, no, but I did it. This program that I teach is how do you remember the contract you made? Oh, that's right. Saturn describes it. Oh, that's right. Your Mercury gives us the clue of how you're sabotaging. Oh, your North Node? That's the place where you don't want to hide out for too long because it will sabotage you. So you learn all these secret spots with words. Like when you told me I was a freak, it wasn't news, but it was very supportive. There was another thing that was weird. The 4-2, is that what it was?
I don't have your chart in front of me because I don't have it from before. I just like searched my computer, but I'm like, where's your chart? But I can't remember. I thought that your profile had a 3 in it, but do you remember, Dana?
No, I thought that she was a 4-6. Oh, so we really gotta.
What's 4-6? I think you're right. What was 4-6?
4-6. There's a lot there, like what the role model energy with the 6 line, and being someone who's really here to help teach the world in a big way. That you're here to be your authentic self, and you're here to kind of like let that freak flag fly a little bit and show people role model what that looks like. And you're also, I'm pretty sure, a manifesting generator.
I am.
Which is all about being a complete trailblazer, someone who breaks the mold and says,
ants in her pants.
And who said, totally. But I mean, going to school for psychology and being like, and I want to bring in astrology. And they're like, nobody's ever done that before. That's not allowed. And you being like, oh, really? I'm doing it anyways. That kind of like rebellious, but trailblazer is so, and then being able to weave all of those different things that you do together in a way that makes something really fresh and innovative is such a signpost of it. And I feel like you're such a role model in that, which then goes back to your 4-6 profile.
It's a 4-6. You're right.
I think it is.
And I am a manifesting generator. And I just watched today on Instagram some example of it. And I am the person that, let's go for a run, and then let's go play tennis, and then let's come up and write a book. And then I'm like, Debra, is there an off button? And the answer is no.
Which is why doing a project like writing a book, where it's really going to take dedication and linear focus and to see it through to completion, can feel overwhelming. It's like, I want to go.
Remember I said the learning disability I had in astrology, my Mercury and Taurus, I can stay the course if I can. I had to do it all by hand. I had to they kept wanting me to work online. I was like, no, I need to touch the paper.
Oh, you wrote a pen to paper.
I wrote it in a journal. I wrote the book. They sent it to me, and I kept asking for printed pages that I could put in a folder that I could turn. It was typed, but I knew how to serve myself on my terms.
Yeah, it's
I
amazing.
literally don't think I can barely write with a pen at this point. Like my handwriting is.
We are in the future.
Yes, my handwriting is so messy, and I don't have time. It's too slow. My hands
remember pencil sharpeners? No.
Oh my
Hardly.
gosh! When you had to walk to the wall and crank it
in class.
Yeah, no, I never. Even as a kid, I remember thinking like writing is so like my hand can't write as fast as my mind is thinking.
Gemini rising,
and I remember thinking like, I'm not even going to try. Like my handwriting was so messy all through high school, college. Everybody else had like gorgeous little cute handwriting, and mine looks like a doctor because I just don't have time for it. And now I was right because like nobody's even learning how to write with a pen anymore. We're all typing. But here's the thing, like you said, when things crumble, it's all those skills that we're like, wait, I didn't think this was important, or I gave all my power away to the internet or to something that I have no idea how it even works. And now I don't know. I'm starting from ground zero. Like I don't know how to get food or grow food or clean water or,
And we have to get this thing done because I have to go. You guys are
really sorry. We could talk to you forever, but where can people find your book? Where can they find how to work with you? You mentioned that you had a course or a group where people can come and find community.
So one is obviously Amazon is where you can go get my book, both books, or you can get my missing element on my website, and I'll put your chart in the book and sign it. So there's 2 ways to get it. The school only opens twice a year. So it opens in January, the doors open, which is what we're doing a podcast here in January, and then again in September. So the school only happens twice a year, and you can come for a 6-week program with just 10 women in a room and learn your chart and really study with your chart on the screen. And it's just very intimate and it's very personal. And even if you know astrology, you have to do level 1. And then there's level 2 and level 3 if you want to be an astrologer when you grow up. And then I have this wonderful program that's in person. It happens in Boulder or Hawaii. It happens once a year. It's called 4E, where we do the elemental conversation I keep obsessing on experientially. So it's to your point again, not talking about it, but you're sitting in a shamanic, people call it a ceremony without the drugs.
Love it.
It's a very altered state. People come into wisdom, and it's one of my most powerful. And that happens in March 23rd in Hawaii, and then it happens in September in Boulder. So that's in person. And then I think that's it. And then there's this, I have a class called Tell Me a Story, where people come in and they learn the 4 elements by telling their story. And they get to, there's 4 classes, and it's online, again, just 10 women. I'm really about intimacy. I have a lot of Scorpio. I'm not doing the general, I want personal, to your point, you really got it, Dana. I want embodiment. I don't want to talk so much, even though I'm a Gemini, unless I know it'll land in your body. So I hope this podcast, when you think about the birthing and the wisdom of the midwife, and the ones of you that might be scared, the ones that are scared need to go do their work so that you can be prepared for what's coming. So you can be, emotionally and your nervous system and mentally stable enough to say, we knew this was coming. I love that song. We've seen it all before. It's not the first time that we've gone through an initiation. It's the first time 8 billion of us have done it. We've never had this much technology. I mean, Atlantis, we forget about that. There was definitely technology, but there wasn't 8 billion people. We're in a very extreme, I have tinnitus and I hear ding all the time. And I'm convinced it's because, there's a lot of people here with their devices on.
It's true. Yeah, sometimes it's overwhelming how many people there are. And the fact that we're going through such big changes with all of these people, I mean, it just shows you how important it is to find that inner peace, to find that inner stability, to find that inner empowerment, because it's maybe a little bit harder than it's ever been before, having so much technology, having so many people, but it's never been more important. So I hope
that you said coming back to the farm or
back
to the ranch. Back to the ranch. I so many things that you said have initiated me. I know for so many of our listeners as well. I'm so excited. I want to come to Boulder. I'm because in March
you would love this. And bring your baby. The
Yeah.
process. There's only 10 people again, so it's it's pretty. It happens quick, but you just got to write to info at Debra Silverman, 3 words. Info at DebraSilvermanAstrology.com and say, I heard about. It's called 4E. And it is a process that you can learn and do with your friends. One, you're going to get it because I will be teaching it. So you're going to get a big transformation in it. But two, you leave there with the skill because I give you a whole, it's a very, for coaches or for people that are therapists or people that are, really interested in working with people in human design. This process names the 4 elements and you figure out, oh God, I didn't know I was missing that element.
Yeah. I'm just lit up by everything you're sharing. I'm like,
okay, your Jupiter is also lighting up your Mars. Tell the truth. Yes. And you've got a real activation literally today. And please find out about my work and you guys. And when my book comes out, I'm going to be in different cities. In April 8th, it comes out and I'll be in San Francisco and LA and New York and Austin and Detroit. I'm going to Detroit. And I'd love to see you there. So find out when I'm going to be where and come and hear me read from my book.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much. This has been such a treat to have you on. And I hope that, I know our listeners are obsessed. Yes.
Thank you both so much. I see your lights. I see your contribution you're making to so many people in the libraries in Germany and all across the planet. And I just thank you because you're answering your call. It's very obvious.
Thank you.
Great pleasure for an elder to see those that are finding their calling and following through because we are going to need you more than ever.
As always, you know where you can connect with us. That conversation was so fun and I'm just feeling so lit up, but you can find us at daylunalife.com and our Instagram at dayluna. And you can find our book, Your Human Design, anywhere books are sold. And join us to find your bestie in your human design besties to really connect with community and meet once a month online and do ceremonies and find that soul friendship because it's important, like we talk about in this podcast. So everything's on our website, daylunalife.com. And we hope that you have an amazing, nurturing, soul honoring rest of your day. Thank you for tuning in with us today. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to follow along and learn more about human design.